Hi, I'm Jessica Ardeal with the Professional Healers Institute, and thank you for tuning in to Crack the Code of Your Body's Intelligence, because today's featured health expert is an integrative holistic health practitioner combining ancient sciences to bring us a modern way of living. I'm so excited that you're here on the expert panel with us. Catherine Davies, thank you, welcome. Thanks for taking the time and taking a stand for body intelligence with muscle testing.
Thanks so much for having me, Jess. I'm really excited to be here and can't wait to share what I know.
Yeah, and it's really a personal journey that evolved into being of service to the people that you work with now. And there's so much I want to talk to you about. You know, when I first reached out, I mentioned that piece that really caught me is your awareness of the immune system. And I recently heard a call to action from Marianne Williamson to be the immune cells so that we can all strengthen as a whole. And I really want to talk to you about how we can bridge that gap and how muscle testing helps us tap into those things that we don't see, but they really make an impact on how we feel. So let me just first start by asking, how were you first introduced to muscle testing?
Well, it was back in 2005. I was pregnant with my third child, and we had bought some properties from a fraudulent property developer. And I had a panic attack and thought we were going to lose our house and everything. So I went online to try and find something to help me. I thought, I've got to help myself and my baby. And I found EFT. I bought some videos from Gary Craig, and on one of the videos, he introduced a lady called Sandy Radomski from allergyantidotes.com. And she was using muscle testing to help people who were having allergic reactions. She was seeing allergies as a mistake of the immune system caused by trauma. And so she was using muscle testing to find out what the traumas were, because people really can't remember from their conscious mind, you know, memories from birth or, you know, as a baby, before 7, you know, there's a lot of stuff there that we know about, and they couldn't access those memories. So this was a way in to access those memories. And once she found the trauma and cleared that, then the immune system felt calm and relaxed and didn't have to produce this inflammatory response. So then she found that the symptoms were just going away. So I was really intrigued by that. That's how I first came across this work and muscle testing.
And so you did that on yourself with the EFT tapping and felt a difference, if I'm understanding that correctly, and then had to learn more, right?
Yeah, and my partner suffered from hay fever, so I really had to learn more to help him. That's how I felt. I needed to go. That's where I wanted to. That's how I originally started, was using him as a guinea pig, really.
I love that. I love that. And so tell me more about the stories that stuck with you about how something seemingly, like, how do you make sense of it, right? And how do you language that for people now?
It is difficult, but I think having the experience of that first amazing success, and I just downloaded Sandy Radomski's manuals, so I really, you know, was no expert. I just went through the manuals, learned how to muscle test, learned how to use the EFT with the muscle testing, and used him as a guinea pig. And we had success after the first treatment. I'm not saying that that will happen for everybody, but it happened for us. And to see that, it made me think, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And then I needed to find out more about it and really go deeper into the work.
Yeah, that really speaks to me that it's the body intelligence that
Yeah.
facilitates and navigates the work. We just set it in motion with our own awareness. We don't have to be an expert, like you said, but it starts to tap into how that intelligence is really a part of us. And then we get to be in expression with it together. There's that piece you also mentioned about not recalling consciously memories and things that happen. And oftentimes, we do forget, but the body records everything and it has all of that data available to us, and muscle testing allows us to access that. How do you individualize it for people now when you work with them?
So if I'm working with a client with an allergy or an intolerance or sensitivity, I want to find out what's going on underneath that. Why is the immune system setting up this response, this inflammatory response? Is there a trauma behind it? And I will muscle test and go in to find, I actually muscle test on myself now to find out what's going on with my client. So that it bypasses the, I remember when I was doing EFT with my clients, and I'd ask them a question and they'd just be blank, just didn't know. I don't know why, I've got no memory of that. But straight away, I can find out the age of the trauma that's associated with the intolerance, sensitivity, allergic reaction. And once we know the age, we can then even find emotions associated. And it's amazing how then the client will a light bulb will just come on and say, I know what that is. And there we have it. And then we can use energy psychology tools to clear anything associated with that trauma. And then the whole immune system relaxes.
Yeah, what I'm hearing you share is that neutralization, that resonance to resolve the over energy, right? And it can be really simple as far as what needs to be brought to awareness so it can settle down and relax.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a big part of it is your body is trying to protect you. It wants you to be safe. And it's trying to protect you, but it's just, it's seeing things, especially in the work I do, it's seeing substances as something it needs to push away because it's not safe for you. And that comes from these traumas, memories that we don't have access to. And now we can get access to those memories. So but it's so exciting, this work.
Yeah, I love that you highlighted that as well, because our body is always working for our survival, and it's that miscommunication that gets lost in translation, and it can be easy to get frustrated with our body and get mad at it, and why aren't you working like we want it to, right? But there's really all of these underlying things. Again, how did you start to trust the muscle testing for yourself and navigating the information and the data that way? That's a big question for a lot of people. How do you trust the response you're getting, and how did that come about for you?
I learned the emotion code by Dr. Bradley Nelson, and I worked as part of the certification process. We had to work with lots and lots of people doing case studies. And so it was just constantly going through the lists. And as I was muscle testing, what I would do is it's strong, 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 weak. It's gone weak. So that must be something. And then, if you're that's what I would suggest is going down lists. If you're trying to find maybe a food that you're having a problem with, go down lists of foods. And if the muscle test breaks, you've got a problem with that. That's how I learned to trust it, because it was the same for so many things and then different. And so that had to be something. So that's what I'd recommend, really. That's what gave me the confidence in my work and the repetition. Just keep doing it, keep practicing. And eventually, one day, you just, well, you see the results of your muscle testing, and then you're just flying then.
Right. It's that confirmation that comes, and it just somehow makes sense, even though it's not logical always. Right. And so I'm wondering if there's a story that comes to mind that you can share that speaks to that, either with yourself or working with clients, about like, wait a second, how could that even be possible and happen?
I'm just trying to think. I have, when you said that, I have done something recently. Actually, now we have this amazing tool called the Allergy Detective. It's an app. And so it's a bit like Body Code. Do you know the Body Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson? I think so many people know about it now. So we're using the app to muscle test to find what's going on underneath these allergic reactions. And it just takes you to, yes, I remember. I was working with somebody the other day, and she'd been telling me that she'd been on holiday. She was on holiday, and actually she was on the phone, and she said, I'm having this, on holiday. The weather's terrible. I'm never coming to Europe again. And then the next day I spoke to her, she had a rash, and she said, oh, can you help me please with this rash? So I straight away went to the Allergy Detective. The first thing it took me to was, I'm in the wrong place. And and it's so new, this, the Allergy Detective. We've only just got it. So I didn't know where that was. I had no idea where the muscle testing was going to take me. And it was in the wrong place. And then we went underneath and underneath and underneath, found all these things, cleared them. Next day she phoned me and said, what did you do? What did you do? It's so much better. And it was so painful and red. So yeah, it takes you to weird places sometimes.
And that story to me really speaks to how our body is communicating with us, and that emotional, nonverbal response that our body physically gives us. There's so much underneath all that, like you just said. Thank you for sharing that. And what else comes to mind? I love hearing stories.
Okay, so let me think. Oh, so with my partner, we found a trauma from age 3 that was related, and so we would never have found that. I asked him what could have been happening when you were 3, and he said that his mum used to put him on her bike. He's from New Zealand, and she used to go to the shops across a park with him on the bike, and one day he remembers she fell off, and so did he. And he said, and that was, I don't know how he remembers that, but once we knew the age, he did remember it, and it was, so that helped him. We sorted out the hay fever. Well, he did. His body was doing the work, of course. And then there was somebody else who, she used to have terrible hay fever as well. And she came with a tissue that she'd wet this tissue, wiped it over the cars, the windscreens of the cars, to get all the pollen and anything that was in the air that she could be reacting to. By the time she got to me, her eyes were streaming. She'd been on a bike, and she said, it's just affecting me because I can't go on my bike anymore. She came in, we muscle tested, we found a trauma relating to her mum, and it put her, by muscle testing, it put her right in the moment. She knew exactly the moment that this trauma was, and so we released it, and again, much better. She reported. Actually, a lot of people don't tell you for a long time if they've got better. Yeah, it's, oh gosh, there's so many. I don't know where. Yeah, so there's a few anyway.
Thank you, Catherine. I appreciate that. And like you said, you know, it's easy to, once something's resolved, it's easy to forget that it was there, right? I just did that to
I
my
know.
vet the other day. Something cleared up with the dog, and still, you know, everything else overrode it. But I digress. So, what is the number one thing you want people to know about muscle testing?
I think the number one thing for me is that you can learn it yourself. It's not, you don't have to have any special powers. It is something you can learn, and then you can muscle test yourself. You can muscle test your family. You can, yeah. It's helped my family so much, and I really urge people to learn it and just to trust that you can do it. And it does take practice. You might not be able to just do it straight away. And it's the practice, you need the practice to start trusting your muscle testing. And to know that everybody feels the same about it. We don't just start and say, oh yeah, I can muscle test, and trust yourself. We all have the trust issues, and you can do it.
Thank you so much, Catherine. You know, like you said, you do need practice. I was used to muscle testing one way, and when I went to learn it another way, I thought, oh gosh, I'm never going to get this. It doesn't make sense. Is this locked? Is this unlocked? Is this a yes? Is this a no? But
Yeah.
what you need is that time, just like any craft, to hone the skill and understand and discern what it is for you. And so the more that we can receive the benefits from clearing our body of different stressors or alleviating different symptoms, the more we can be a clear channel to understand those notes. The other thing I just wanted to mention, for some reason, Mary Lou Henner keeps coming to mind, and she's the American actress that has that memory recall. And, you know, I just like to bring that up because it does kind of validate that our body does record and can remember in a split second, in an instant, what goes where, what happened where. And like you do with so many people, muscle testing helps to pinpoint that so that they can bring resolve and really just live the best lives they're here to live. So if people are looking to connect with you, how can they do that, Catherine?
Well, my site is amodernwayofliving.com. I've just changed over actually, so I'm still in the middle of making it look beautiful. And yes, they can subscribe, and they will get a free self what's it called? What I called it? Easy Self Muscle Test Guide. So they can I teach them how to self muscle test. And you know, with muscle testing, it's all about finding what suits you as well, what kind of muscle testing suits you, because as you say, there are so many different types. But I've started muscle testing myself now. I found it quite difficult to muscle test other people because in a session, because they were getting tired, and I was individually muscle testing every substance. So now I muscle test myself as a surrogate or as a proxy. So yes, and I just want to help teach people this and help them to help themselves. That everybody can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really the whole point here, is to recognize that we have this, you know, it's like you said, you don't need a superpower, but it gives us a power to access this information and this intelligence and connect body, mind, spirit with our physical, our mental, our emotional integration, and really start to understand how our body is responding so that we can have more of a conscious connection and conversation about health and healing and what it is to define that. So anything else you want to share before we go?
Gosh, I think I'm just so passionate about helping others. I do work with clients as well, but I have a real passion to help people to help themselves. And yeah, but you can do it. That's it. You can do it. Definitely, you can do it.
Thank you. And there are so many different ways. It's about finding what works for you, and it will probably evolve over time, but wherever you find yourself, jump in, get started, start to understand and get curious about maybe what can't be understood, right? There's some parts we just have to trust.
That's it. I don't always understand why something has helped somebody, but I still do it. And yeah, I'm sure that they're very pleased that I do. I still do. But our bodies are amazing things, and I think you've got to really believe the power of what you've got inside of you. And I think if you can learn these tools, it empowers you so much. I would say that to any parent out there, actually. To be able to help your children is just such an amazing thing. So, and I think muscle testing is where it all begins.
Thank you, Catherine. I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Jess. Bye.